Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday. Happy Friday to you, and when this day is over I'm gonna go to the bar with my friends and open a cold brewski. Alcohol free, of course. You would not believe, my friends, what happened yesterday on the Finnish Gulf off the coast of Estonian coastline. It involved a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker. The tanker was headed to Ust-Luga Russian port, Baltic Sea port. Estonian Navy was approaching it using a ship, using a drone, using a helicopter. And there's a whole video about it. The tanker did not respond, and I give you a hint what happened after. Russian Su-35 entered Estonian airspace, NATO airspace, because of this incident. First of all, let's watch a video. Now, this is shot from the deck of the Russian tanker, Shadow Fleet tanker. And we can see the Estonian Navy chopper already up in the air, an Estonian fleet ship approaching the tanker. This was a very dangerous situation.
This is Estonian warship.
Let's listen to this.
Papa 6732. Your request will be denied. Follow my instructions. Alter your course to 105 immediately. Over.
He said this is Estonian warship, Papa and the number. So he actually ordered this Russian tanker to enter into Estonian airspace to dock so Estonians could check it. Check the papers, because the ship was sailing without a flag country, without insurance, and it was connected to companies that are part of Russian Shadow Fleet management. So it's an illegal oil tanker. This is pretty much the short story. And we know what Finland did last time. They just took it. They boarded a similar tanker and captured it. That's it. So we noticed one and we reacted immediately. But the tanker did not react. Estonians sent their chopper, their navy ship, and then Russians sent an Su-35 over the air border into an Estonian airspace. And you know what happened then? Estonia scrambled its air force. Well, technically not Estonian air force, it was Portuguese air force, because in Estonia the airspace is guarded by different countries month to month or period to period. Right now it's Portuguese F-16s in Estonia. They immediately scrambled to identify the Su-35 and escort it out of the Estonian airspace. Now, the Russian fighter was in the Estonian airspace only for a few seconds, but still, it is the first instance of this kind this year. Here we can see the Estonian Navy ship closing in on the tanker. All in all, the incident was over yesterday within an hour, and the Russian tanker continued its path onto Russian waters. Estonians did not board the tanker, and later the head of the Estonian Navy said that we have the capabilities to do so, and it's not difficult. We chose not to. Now, what this incident says to us is how important these Shadow Fleet tankers are to the Russian war effort. They are ready to penetrate NATO airspace with their fighters to make sure their money keeps flowing, because Russian war is funded by this Shadow Fleet transporting oil to the buyers from Russian ports. This incident was part of that Shadow Fleet, and they immediately sent their Su-35. Now, of course, fighters fly in pairs. The other Su-35 stayed in the Russian airspace, stayed behind a little bit, but one of them penetrated the Estonian airspace. This all shows you how important it is to the Russian war effort and what we can do to hurt the Russian war effort. We can sanction these ships, and it will have an effect. My friends, United States and Ukraine signed the mineral deal, and you can see it here. Zelensky says mineral deal with the US is truly equal. And here it is shown to me in Ground News, #1 news comparison site in the world. See, I found this article by going to For You tab in the ground news and clicking Ukraine and Ukraine war. This way I only see these two topics. These are my interests. In ground news, by taking the example of the mineral deal article, we can see that total news sources are 114, leaning left of them is 11, leaning right of them is 19, and center is 20. And in the bias distribution tab, you can see it visualized with color, left 22%, center 40% and right 38%. Everything is visualized right here in front of your eyes. You can throw away the garbage and only follow what you really want to read. Talking about that, the garbage, there's factuality tab. Mixed factuality, I don't want to do that. High and very high factuality, that's what I want to read. You can control which news sites have which factuality, where are they leaning, who is the owner of that. For example, Euronews Media Conglomerate, European Broadcasting Union, because every owner has a different agenda. You can find out the ownership and the factuality at the same time in all of these articles. And by the way, the wording also changes depending on the agenda. For example, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty is owned by government, United States Agency for Global Media. It is high factuality and it is in the center. And check out the wording. Ukraine hails minerals deal as helping strengthen US support for its security. That's a nice title. So if you want to keep the garbage, low factuality news out of your attention, sign up to Ground News. Go to ground.news/Artur to take back control on how you stay informed. Save 40% on the Ground News Unlimited Access Vantage plan and see all sides of every story and come to your own conclusions. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. Now, my friends, I have to show you a Russian assault on Kharkiv region yesterday. These assault videos are almost daily. Why I'm showing you this? Because it was repelled by a Ukrainian 92nd Assault Brigade. Why it's so important is because you and me, we gave cars to that unit, specifically 92nd Assault Brigade drone unit, which is called Code 9.2. I got a hat from them. I got many other things from them. And for the longest time, I couldn't say who we gave the cars to because at that time that unit was more secret. Now that unit is very well known because their drone work is amazing, as you can see from the video. So you can be proud about yourself because you donated to that car, to those cars actually, and we delivered it. And they are still making wonders 1.5 years later, as we can see on this footage, because they stopped this attack yesterday in Kharkiv. So it matters what we do. It matters. The cars matter. Talking about drones, yesterday Ukrainians decided to launch a massive drone attack against Belgorod oblast Russian military targets, mostly burning every kind of military vehicle they could find anywhere. Check it out, just on a highway immediately connected with the drone burning down. There's plenty of these instances, civilians filming these Russian military logistics supply vehicles just burning somewhere on the random roads that even the civilians are using. It's not close to the front line. Ukrainians just launched this air assaults with the drones, catching these vehicles completely off guard. Here you can see another one. But it's not only the vehicles they were after also the Russian communication lines. And we can see a video exactly how they're taking these down. Also, Belgorod Oblast communication tower. Now, this is a civilian communication tower, but of course, both militaries, Ukrainians and Russians, will install their own devices on top of here with cameras, with drone detectors, sometimes jammers, sometimes repeaters that lengthen the range of the FPVs or long-range drones. These small things right here attached, they could be civilian, they could be military. Ukrainians are not taking any risks. Connected to the target, destroyed. See, this is how they're taking out the communications. I have to say Russians are doing the very same thing. They're taking down Ukrainian communications in the same way. Here we can see another vehicle somewhere on the road in Belgorod just burning away like a nice Friday it is. But it's not it. It's not only the drones that connected in Belgorod to their targets. Also, Ukrainian Air Force was very active. Yes, Air Force. Ukrainians, like Russians, are using their Air Force to bombard targets with guided air bombs. Of course, Russians have much more of them, but Ukrainians also have the French guided air bombs and the USA ones. And in this instance, they decided to take out a bridge in Kursk oblast. The white line here is a country border. This is the Kursk oblast. And the bridge was over this Nagoist river. You can see it right here on the satellite photo. And here is a Russian soldier filming the aftermath. Two bombs, two presents were delivered to the bridge over the Nagoist river, and they completely demolished it. By the way, these soldiers are super strange because they're laughing. It's like, oh, look at that. A bomb fell. No bridge anymore. Ha ha ha. Very strange soldiers. I cannot for the life of me understand that attitude towards your own destroyed bridge. But it's Russia. Now, my friends, I want to introduce you to a Russian motopedik. You can see it right here on the video. This one's speeding towards the Ukrainian anti-tank ditch. Now, a little wordplay if you're from America or English-speaking word motopedik. Moto is like motorbike. Pedik means a very offensive way of saying towards a gay person. So it's like a motorbike gay person. I'm sorry, I cannot use other words, it's YouTube. But motopedik is a very offensive way to say this to a Russian soldier. Now, he's watched many Jason Statham and Chuck Norris movies because, you know, that's what you do in Russia. He speeds up, trying to jump over this anti-tank ditch, and look at that. Bada boom, face plants straight into it. Demilitarized, knocked out cold. Welcome to Ukraine, suka. Yeah, he's gone. I don't know if I can show you the rest of it, but he couldn't jump over it because he's not Jason Statham. He's a Russian motopedik. Now I want to introduce you to what the motopedik was drinking before he went to try to jump over with turbo boost, jump over this ditch. Russian army on the front, most meat assault troops, they are not given proper food or water. They're given a little ammunition and a weapon. They're just there to soak up Ukrainian ammunition and drones. So it's natural that they're not given water. So they have to find their own. How they do that is they just dig holes and wait for the rainwater to go into these holes. The thing is, everybody knows stagnant water will have worms and parasites and everything inside, harmful bacteria. This is what the motopedik was probably drinking before. It's a Russian water hole, if you can say that. And these guys are shits in blood, and then they go to their assaults. I mean, that's the situation. And we all know every army has an issue with that. Even the United States in Iraq, anytime they were in Iraq or Afghanistan, if the unit gets the shits, as they say, they cannot fight. But Russians, they don't care about that. They drink this water, they shit blood, and they go on their motopeds and become motopedik. Now, my friends, I want to introduce you to another Russian soldier who made a very smart choice and surrendered, thus saving his life. He is now allowed to call home because Ukrainians do that. It's in their every interest to allow these Russian guys to call home because they do treat them fairly humane. And this way, these Russian soldiers call home and their wives and children and mothers and fathers see how well they're actually treated in Ukraine. It's in a way an information warfare operation. So this guy called home, and I'm going to translate it, read the subtitles to you because this is just too salty and too good to ignore. Check it out. Calls home. I'm guessing it's his mother. Why are you drinking? Dad, I don't have enough nerve. I just don't have enough. My Alyosha died. Who? Alyosha, my brother. How? In Ukraine, he was killed. Good. How did he get there? He signed a contract. Like that. On 27th, Tanya was buried. I am sitting at their house. Karevo Tanka died before my eyes. Lenka is dead. That's it. There's only one professor left. Mom, come on, knock it off, don't drink. So you call home. You are in a war zone on the front. You are alive. You call home. You're a prisoner of war to give them the good news that I'm alive. And they tell you that everybody's dead. That's Russia, my friends. There's no words to describe what's going on in there. Western people would never understand it. Even if we show it, it's very difficult to understand what sort of a country it is, what sort of a culture it is. But I think these videos unlock it bit by bit, slowly. Now, my friends, I'll introduce you to yet another Russian specifics of army. This is a camel. A camel troop in Russian army is the lowest of the low. It's not even motopedik, it's not meat assault. It's only a transport troop. That's why they call it a camel. It's a man who only transports equipment from the front and to the front. And this is what they look like. They're training right now to do this. Just with a trolley or whatever it is, it's like a camel or a donkey, but a human being reduced to that. No other army in the world has that, only Russians. And yes, this is a real position, a camel. You can be demoted to that position if you desert or if you're a refusenik, you will be a camel. You will be beaten into that submissive position to be a camel. And this is how they work, look. Have you seen anything like it? This, it's an army of wonders, I'm telling you. Do you know what time it is? Yes, my friends, you guessed it. It's the last time of this week, the Friday edition of Butchering Some Buy Me a Coffee names. See, I'm a butcher, but I'm a good butcher. I only butcher these names who support the channel monthly in Buy Me a Coffee. We have Yoskeroni Pepperoni, Andres Ibarra, Gordon Hiuma. Gordon Hiuma never became a monthly member, but he always supports manually every month. So Gordon, thank you very much. Hiuma is the second biggest island in Estonia. So kui sa oled Hiiumaal, hästi paned, ma loodan, et sul on äge seal saare peal. Kui ma tulen, teeme väiksed õlled. Alkoholivabad. My friends, have you ever given thought to this? It is truly amazing that everything that Putin has been trying to avoid, he has brought into light. Much like King Oedipus. He is the King Oedipus. Check it out. Putin is a sleeper CIA agent. He destroyed his army, weakened Russia, built up NATO, killed Russian speakers in the east, brought in Finland and Sweden to NATO, forever bonded Ukrainian language and identity, and created the modern Ukrainian military. He did that because without his actions, none of that would have happened. Europe was on the palm of Russia's hand before. I mean, Germany was full puppet of Russian money. There was Nord Stream 2, for Christ's sake. It's a horrible project, and they did it. And they paid for it, the Germans. Europe was so blind until Putin invaded Ukraine and everybody started waking up. He might be the biggest NATO salesman there is. Now, my friends, one of the most important topics, the negotiations, because as I said in the previous video, Putin is always trying to buy time because he knows if Donald Trump gets pissed off, finally understanding that Putin is playing him, Donald will get mad and give Ukrainians big guns. So he's trying to buy time, and this is why he proposed negotiations in Turkey. Immediately though, Zelensky accepted, calling Putin's bluff. And now here we are. They happened yesterday and Putin was not there. Zelensky was there. So I'll begin with this topic by highlighting what is different from previous negotiations. Because Russians are trying to play that these negotiations are a continuation of the 2022 negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. They cannot be, because what is different? Since the last Istanbul negotiations, Russia controls less territories, failed to achieve a single one of its proclaimed goals, lost a quarter of its Black Sea fleet, used most Soviet stockpiles, had the Wagner mutiny. This is not what a successful war looks like. Russia now is in a much worse situation than they were at the beginning months of war, in almost any or every way. So they still want the same things, but they're worse off. Their position is worse off I don't know what kind of games they think they're playing, but Ukraine is not playing it. So Zelensky had a message to Putin because Putin was the one to report and invite to direct negotiations to show to Trump that, hey, I want peace. Here's my proposal. Thinking nobody would accept and nobody would take it seriously. Zelensky immediately took it seriously, and here you can see him in Istanbul. Zelensky, the man of nice, easy quotes to remember. I am here. This is a very clear message. I need ammunition, not a ride. We're not an insurance company. I cannot guarantee what happens on 9th of May in Moscow. I mean, his quotes, I just love it. He says it short how it is. In this video, we can see Zelensky waiting for Putin in Istanbul. Putin not showing up, a big sad for Zelensky. So to show how much Ukrainians are actually for peace and for negotiations, I mean, they brought in their heavy hitters. Anybody who is anybody in Ukraine connected to military or foreign policy is there. Ukrainian delegation in Turkey reportedly includes President Zelensky, Foreign Minister Zibiha, Chief of General Staff Natov, SBU head Malyuk, Defense Minister Umerov, and head of the presidential office Yermak. These are heavy hitters. This is you couldn't have a higher negotiation team on the Ukrainian side. And Russians, who the Russians have? Russians, Vladimir Medinsky, Putin's aide, Mikhail Galuzin, Deputy Foreign Minister, Igor Kostyukov, Chief of the Main Department of the Russian General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, and Alexander Fomin, Deputy Defense Minister. It's deputies and aides of president. I mean, in Russia, only president makes the choices and calls, and he's not there because he's afraid. So Russians sent a garbage delegation, showing everybody that they don't really want peace. As I've said many times before, Putin doesn't want peace. Putin doesn't need peace. He cannot afford peace because the economy will collapse if they will have peace. For some reason, Donald Trump still thinks he has some kind of power over this war or negotiating in this war. He doesn't. The only power he has to end this war is to weaponize Ukraine. Hell, the Ukrainians will do it for the United States. They will destroy the arch enemy of the United States for free if needed be. Even they will buy the weapons from the US, giving money to the US. Just allow them to do so. Trump, he's slow sometimes. He needs to be taught how to understand Russians. Trump said that if Putin refuses a peace deal, the US will provide Ukraine with support beyond what it can imagine. Nice. Yeah, I mean, let's educate Trump because he's a slow man from the head. He cannot understand. Everybody's saying it to him. He cannot understand it. That he is being played by Putin, who just wants to buy time in this war, and Trump is giving that time to him. Let's educate the slow man. He needs to understand because unfortunately he makes these shots. Now, my friends, for a moment, I'll take you to Romania because in Sunday it is the most important election day of Romania in the last, 2 decades. Romania is part of NATO, a very strategic NATO partner, very important ones, and NATO is opening new bases in Romania because it's a Black Sea country, Black Sea coastline. It's a direct opposition force to Russian Southern Army Group and Black Sea Fleet. And the Romanian presidential elections are between a fully pro-Russian candidate, a NATO country with a fully pro-Russian candidate, Simeon, or a very pro-NATO, pro-European Union candidate. So it's not a local election. It's an election between Russian way of doing things and European NATO way of doing things. And it will happen in Sunday, 2 days from now. This is the pro-European Union NATO candidate, Nicosor Dan. And he says to George Simeon, the other one, the Romanian presidency is a very serious matter. You can't just run away like that. Why does he say this? Because in the first round, Simeon was absent from all 3 major televised debates. Now he has missed the 4th such debate. Simeon did only 1 debate with the pro-EU candidate Dan and was obliterated, like demolished, and he didn't show up after that. And my friends, I gotta show you the polls because you would not believe this. Check it out. In the first round of the election, Simon won 41% of the vote and Dan had 21%. So Simon, the pro-Russian candidate, was leading with a landslide. But then they did the debate, and Simon was horrible at debating. His points were empty and just full with Russian propaganda. And the polls equaled out. And then on Thursday, so yesterday, for the first time, only 3 days after the election date, in 2 days, Dan took the lead. So I do hope the Romanian people make the choice good for their country, because let me tell you, Romania, the farmers all vote for the pro-Russian candidate, but the farmers all get massive amounts of money from the EU. So it doesn't make any sense to vote against the organization that just gives you an insane amount of money to keep your farms. Romanian agriculture is producing a loss, a massive loss. Same as Estonian one, same as almost all agriculture in the former Soviet Union, but EU is subsidizing that with massive, like we're talking tens if not hundreds of billions of dollars. That is funneled into this agriculture sector to just keep it balanced and alive and afloat. That's the EU. And they vote against that. I cannot for the life of me understand a person who votes against the hand that feeds him. So hard to understand. Alright, my friends, this was my video for you today, and tomorrow you only members who are channel members will get a separate video. Only for members though. If you want to be a member, links in the description below. It's not buy me a coffee, it's YouTube channel memberships. It's only 99 cents and you get 4 extra additional members only videos per month. Until my next video, my friends, Slava Ukraini and bye-bye. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video.